Welcome back to Seek Strength and welcome back to the Seek Stand news show, brought to you almost every Monday and well into our second year of the news show now. Today's news show, of course, is brought to you by the Seek Strength app. Maybe you're a powerlifter and you need to check out our powerlifting program on the Seek Strength app. This week's feature from a client who just used the app is Jamie. Jamie did the powerlifting program on the app, ran it into his meet. He did 300 kilo squat, 187.5 kilo bench and a 302.5 kilo deadlifts, and just ran the program as is on the app. So check it out on Seek Strength iOS and Android. Don't forget about our S&C camp in south of Portugal, in Praia da Luz, and our weightlifting camp near the end of May. Details will be on the screen and a link below. Send us an email if you wish to sign up to those. Now, today's news show, we're starting off with weightlifting as usual, and we have the Bulgarian, sometimes Austrian lifter, back to Bulgaria again, David Fischerov, testing positive. So he is last year's European champion, hasn't competed in the last 2 or 3 kind of international events leading up to the Olympics. He tested positive last March for Trenbolone. Good old Tren.
Good old Tren. A couple of things from this. The first thing for me here is, like, the ITA just need to relax. Give us a break, right? Give a man a break. The weird thing about this is obviously the use of Tren in a tested athlete is pretty rare. You'd hear of retired athletes using it. You'd hear of obviously bodybuilders and stuff like that using it, or untested athletes. But Tren in the tested populations tends to be rarely used. It tends to be a kind of last case resort. So I wonder, is it just a factor of his career that he was moving from country to country? Maybe there's not that consistency there of help from medical staff or from other staff who are going to help him out with these kinds of things. You'd have to imagine it doesn't help the fact that he moved from that Bulgarian system to the Austrian system, and then I'm not sure if he moved back again. So it's terrible to see. Obviously, we don't like to see it around here. Bad news.
So the interesting thing about this is that in the 10th of March last year was the testing, so well over a year. So what do we know? April. So over a year, 13 months later, we got kind of news or announcement of it. All these go up on the International Testing Agency's website, and there hasn't been a whole lot of positives for weightlifting in the last kind of year and a half, 2 years. So we can see any recent ones there, and there's just a couple of them there, but not too many major ones. So it'll be interesting to see how this kind of looks in a couple of years' time. Now, moving on to finish the IWF World Cup in Thailand, we had Lalian win the supers. So he did 210 and 253 kilos. The 253 kilos was a PB International clean and jerk for him, which kind of has me wondering what his best clean and jerk is. I wonder, somewhere around the 260 mark, maybe slightly under it. He's quite young yet and is likely to be I would suspect, one of our kind of longer term champions in the super heavy class in weightlifting. Not that the other lifters are very old as it is. You know, we've got Gore, we've got Simon Martyrosyan has moved up. So it's interesting. He's a very good technician. His snatch is beautiful. He attempted 215, missed it, but of course Lash had pulled out, so he wasn't under a huge amount of pressure to be making those lifts.
Yeah, I think it is. This next few months is absolutely pivotal for Lalian, to be honest, particularly when we see the kind of issues that have popped up for Lasha in the last year or 18 months. I think Lalian is well placed. Obviously, there's plenty other competition there, but a good, really consistent competition like this, the importance of that cannot be understated, and how kind of valuable that is leading into the Olympics. Obviously, was it Manasad was there and training in the training hall, but never lifted. Lasha never lifted. Obviously this competition isn't the be on and end all, but going to competition and training and maybe getting injured or maybe not competing for whatever reason really isn't that much of a positive. The result at this competition isn't the be all and end all. It's not that important, but being able to show up at the competition and lift consistently is incredibly important.
I think it's quite telling of Lash's current shape and his fitness to say that he didn't weigh in and not lift. Like, we've never really seen him do that before. Similar style of qualification for Tokyo, and we saw him lift at all those events, and he's been lifting at pretty much everything so far this kind of quad or this 3-year cycle, and he didn't lift at this. You know, he showed up, weighed in. You have to do this competition if you want to go to the Olympics, and it is quite interesting. We know he's under a bit of pressure this time, and I suspect Lashley will still take it because he's the go to the super heavies, but I think it'll be a little bit harder and not quite so easy unless he makes a big turnaround. But as I said last year, I think this will be Lash's last Olympics, and I think we'll be done with him. Now, moving on to the 109s, we had Akbar Jurayev weighing in as a 109, so he's obviously going to go as a 102 to the Olympics. He did 189 at 227 on his second attempt, declined the third. He weighed in actually quite heavy. I think he was something around 108 kilos. So Akbar had moved up to the super heavies, did very, very well in the super heavies, and no one really got a good reason. You know, it was pretty clear that he wasn't going to be a gold medalist in the super heavies. He won gold in Tokyo, so he's obviously looking for that repeat. So it wasn't like it was a desperate decision, and did very, very well as a super, but not, of course, Lasha beating or Lale and beating as a super. Moves back down to the 102s. We have him competing as a 102. Liu Huanhua did 182 to 32 in the snatch. And Akbar is an incredible weightlifter, and he hasn't looked quite the same. So he picked up a back injury while he was lifting as a super heavyweight, and obviously cutting that huge amount of weight is all a lot of stress in the system and trying to qualify for the Olympics. So it'll be very interesting to see. I think Akbar could be my dark horse, not because he's the underdog, but we haven't really seen him manifest his best abilities for the 102. So it wouldn't surprise me if Akbar pulled out the biggest lifts. He's certainly the best snatcher of the, Leo, Miso, of the kind of main ones I'm thinking of here. And he's monstrous clean and jerker, but we just haven't seen what he's capable of as a 102. So I could see Akbar. I could see it very likely that he could repeat his Tokyo gold. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things that pops up when you think of Akbar is, so obviously phenomenally talented. The move up probably did him no harm. But as you drop down, there's a lot of unpredictable factors. So obviously, Gerv's talking about the stress of cutting weight and the stress that puts in your system. But even the biomechanical stacking of slightly thinner legs, slightly thinner midriff, not holding that same amount of mass. The mechanics of the lifts change. How the lifts feel in his own head will change. And this is probably the first time we've kind of properly seen him compete at the slightly lighter body weight. I would be much more confident in him for the Olympics if he was currently sitting at 104 or 105. But I think he weighed in at 107 or 108 or something around there. So there's still a bit of time to go, a bit of weight to lose. Obviously, he could just do a very simple water cut and not do any weight shedding for the next 4 months. But it's probably going to be a combination of both of those things. His snatch looks unbelievably impressive. Like, he is a noted step forward from the other people in that 102 class. But the clean and jerk, obviously there's some monsters there in the clean and jerk.
So they're all kind of around the same numbers in the clean and jerk, I think, looking at their ability based on the recent comps. So, like, it doesn't look like Lally or Akbar could pull out 240 or something, but he could maybe do a 235. So this was his second attempt. So I think what probably happen, it'll come down to who's the most consistent in the snatch in the 102s. And I think Akbar probably is going to get that. I think he'll probably have the few kilos on the snatch, and then they'll all hang with each other on the clean and jerk. So I think it'll probably come down to, obviously there's only one medal at the Olympics for the total, but I think it'll come down to a game of who's just a bit more consistent with their lifts rather than someone pulling out a ginormous lift out of nowhere or someone running away performance. Now, we also had Norway's Solfrid, a lifter who's just been storming through the 81 kilo class, and she did 123 kilo snatch and 152 kilo clean and jerk for a 275 kilo total. Solfrid is, great comp lifter, very, very consistent, and does well and shows up to all these comps and lifts. And here's the 123 snatch. Nice consistent technique, always really nice start position.
I think that consistency of her performance in competition as well cannot be understated. For the last 2 years or so, we've seen her going to all of the major internationals, always competing very, very well, never having any issues, never dropping out of comps, never arriving and weighing in and not competing. And the value of that momentum and how much that momentum actually matters as you're going into Olympics is just so, so massive. I know we have athletes playing games here and trying to figure out different things and for tactical reasons aren't lifting a competition. but showing up to Paris with that massive amount of momentum, that big block of competitions behind you, is just, it can't be understated. It's so valuable. And that compared to somebody who, it's probably not down to their decision at all, but would have shown up and for 5 of those competitions has weighed in, not lifted in competition, it's a very, very different thing there for the actual athlete themselves.
I think a big thing is with Salford's technique is her clean is superb. So she's very good timing. She's great connection with the barbell. So you can see in the slow motion, she holds on to the hook grip in the catch position. And which, if you can do that, if you're someone who has a lot of mobility available to them and you've the right anatomy, holding onto that hook grip in the catch is fantastic. So it's very difficult to do, but it gives you excellent connection to the barbell. You can really haul on the barbell in that pullover as you're pulling under. Gives you a very secure catch position, and any change in that slight timing, any improvement in that milliseconds of improvement in your catch position and the connection between you and the barbell, makes all the difference over reps and sets and months and years and on those heavier lifts. And Salford does a great job of demonstrating that, even on this 152, which is pretty casual for her. Now here we have Miranda squatting triple body weight. So she is 60 kilo lifter and she squatted 180 kilos here, which is incredible. Some mind-blowing display of strength.
Yeah, it's a very nice looking squat as well. It's not kind of crazy low bar just a parallel. It's a very, very nice high bar squat. Obviously triple bodyweight squat is an insane number for anyone to be hitting, but it can't be understated how great this squat is in terms of its mechanics and the absolute weight. Now, I'm going to say it here for me, people touching barbells or holding on to people as they walk the bar back in, you really don't need to be doing that. Obviously, everyone has their own understanding with their own coach, but I much prefer spotters to be behind and not manipulating the barbell at all.
Yeah, it is just as like personal preference. So I suppose you could say for weightlifting, it doesn't matter if someone assists with the barbell even a slight amount because it's just an assistance exercise. But for a personal preference, someone just touching the barbell at all is a little bit annoying. And I think not on this particular coach, I've no who he is, so it's obviously not a comment, not talking schmack. Obviously the new show's always about being as positive as possible and highlighting people's great work, but sometimes, like you might see this international competitions, sometimes the coaches are just looking to do something and just to get involved. So they're like helping the athlete. They want to be involved in the lift. They want to be involved with the athletes. They want to be there and they're really enthusiastic. So they want to be on the ground floor, which is commendable from a coach. But at the same time, just don't touch the barbell. Like hover, keep your hands close to the barbell. But I just hate just touching of the barbell, just a little bit. So moving on to the Artyom Manchipov section of the new show, formerly known as the Lee Sang, but Lee Sang hasn't uploaded anything since competition, so we're back to the Artyom Manchipov section. Artyom has been uploading some old training videos, some stuff we've seen before, a few things we haven't seen before. The first one we haven't seen is a 210 kilo clean and power jerk, and I must say that the 210 power jerk is very nice, excellent timing on the power jerk. I'd actually go so far as to say that a really aesthetic power jerk is actually more aesthetic than a nice split jerk.
Yes, but I feel like that power jerk has to sit within a very strong set of criteria. Yeah. It has to be high. There's no it has to be fairly reasonable with the depth or width the feet are going to go to, and then it has to be just insanely fast. Yeah. I feel like, but definitely this power jerk, Apti's power jerk, all of those are definitely objectively nicer to look at than a split jerk.
And like even a nice split jerk, obviously it's a better lift. Split jerking, power jerking and squat jerking are just inferior lifts, but the power jerk when done right is exceptional. Artyom also put up this 281 kilo front squat at 98 kilo body weight.
And he looks yacked.
He does look yacked, yeah. He's confident when he drops it.
There is something about that physique when he goes to take his belt off. He looks like a superhero. Amazing front squat, obviously. I love the fact that they pushed their squat so hard and it was just kind of once a week he was squatting.
Well, they front squatted multiple times a week, multiple times a day, very frequently.
But just back squatted once a week.
Yeah, just once, twice a week back squat, and usually for a single. So they made up for the leg strength by just doing huge amounts of front squat volume, which is not the most efficient way, but they just didn't really care about the back squat. And then we also had this 200 kilo power clean and jerk. and he just hits a brick wall at that position when he catches a power clean.
For me, it's the jerk on this is just so nice. Obviously, it's so far below his best numbers, but that is, we always talk about driving a jerk as high as you possibly can and then catching it with your hips in as high a position as you possibly can. And this is perfectly executed here. You see that in really strong catch position, no crazy lunge or dropping it underneath the bar. It's very, very good.
Now, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but sometimes when power cleans feel really good, that jerk after that heavy power clean just feels great.
Yeah.
I was taking a jab at Dara there, just in case anyone wasn't. No, but once you do that really good power clean, the jerk after just feels like absolutely nothing. And 200 for a power clean is kind of an all-time hallmark lift to be doing in weightlifting.
You're in a very special club.
I'm not in that club. Next, we've got Edward Zaluen. He is a Belarusian weightlifter. He would be lifting under the, what's it called? The Olympic team, I think is what they call it, if he was to be competing. So he didn't have a great competition. But the training hall lifts 180 kilo power snatch and then a 200 kilo snatch in the training hall. Looking exceptionally good.
Yeah, and looking very consistent. No weird stuff going on in the catch. Sometimes people are making very fast lifts in the training hall, incredibly powerful, but their catch position doesn't look all that confident, or maybe they have some discrepancy from side to side in the catch, and you're saying, okay, there's a lot of energy, a lot of momentum built up into these training hall sessions. We could see how this would go wrong in competition. Looking at both of these lifts, they're so crisp. They're so well executed at both weights. Obviously, the weights are incredibly close to what he'll be doing in competition, or within 10% of what he'll be doing in competition anyway. And yet, the performance kind of didn't come with it.
He subscribes, of course, to the classic Belarusian technique of slightly more knees out than knees back. They're kind of the only nation that makes that work really well. And it does require a lot of horsiness. It does require a lot of power. Some of you might remember I did a video with one of the greatest lifters ever, but possibly one of the top two Belarusian weightlifters ever, Andrei Ramnov. I was asking about this knees out technique because he was very aggressive with it. He said for most people it's a terrible idea. He said it's worth trying just to see, but most of the time he said it's very, very not a good idea. But it obviously worked incredibly well for him. You know, he snatched 200 kilos for a triple, snatched 200 kilos from every position, did 210 from low blocks, attempted for a double. So insane numbers. You know who Andre is. What Edward's technique, when it's on, is on. But then, of course, that room for error then is there. But when you do a snatch like this at 200, it looks so crisp. Like, this looks like he could probably do 215.
He definitely has enough horse in this anyway.
Oh, Edward has. Yeah. He was also wearing a T-shirt that said, I love MILFs in Just Walk Around Thailand. Next, we've got Abdallah Galal. He's an Egyptian lifter. He's quite young, very early 20s. Not sure what weight he is here in this video because he doesn't say. I'm assuming somewhere between 73 to 81. So it's a 210 kilo block clean. Obviously, if he's a 73, it's outrageous. If he's an 81, it's still outrageous. And maybe an 89 if he's moved up and he's maturing. But, you know, he's somewhere between, unfortunately, we can only guess where he is between that kind of 73 to 89. I don't think he's a fully fledged 89 if he is. So 70s to 80 kilo body weight. So cleaning 210 from blocks is crazy work.
My good God, it looks easy as well.
Are they really? What's sorry the grey? They're like the tan coloured plates underneath the blocks.
I think they're 25s. Is how I'm reading that.
Are they round blocks of wood?
No, they're definitely 25. Once the block of wood comes off the top, you can see they're definitely 25.
I don't know.
See, they're definitely plates.
Maybe it's some Egyptian secret.
It's the Egyptians love variation in their system.
Yeah.
You see a lot of block work from different positions as well. Obviously, Muhammad Ehab, probably their greatest weightlifter ever. You would have seen him doing a massive amount of variation in all his training. But 210 here is crazy weights.
They go very heavy with the variations. Like if they're doing the no-foot power clean, they go heavy. If they're doing no-foot snatches, they go heavy. You know, if they're no-foot hang snatches, they go heavy. If they're doing the power cleans, they go heavy. If they're doing the block cleans, they go heavy. Just go heavy.
They go heavy a lot.
Yes, and the 210 is very, very, very nice. Superb cleaner. It's really great if you can get the barbell into your hip without bending your arms on cleans. So on block cleans, it's kind of, if it's your normal technique, it makes sense, but You get a bit more bar travel, so you can get time for the barbell to speed up a little bit more. So that's one of the reasons you'd use block cleans, of course, is to try and put a bit more speed into a position, so work it a little bit harder, you might say, and it takes a bit of the load off your back, so you can do a bit more variation without loading your back if you're fatiguing your back. And it's just sometimes variation for the sake of variation. And some people it works really well, because if you need to work the pull under faster, you can't quite get up that speed. So if you make maybe mid-thigh contact where normal people will, or the usual person will make contact, it's a good way of practicing, because it really punishes you if you don't get that pull under worked really well. So the block clean comes in handy there, and it's pretty nice when they go quite well, when you can go heavy with them. Here we've got Harley Burke, and he is doing something we don't see a whole lot, which is really heavy clean deadlifts, and this is 300 kilos, and it looks pretty sweet.
It looks absolutely great. Obviously, there's a few reasons we'd have something called a clean deadlift rather than just standard conventional. Setup position being the first one. That kind of slightly lower hips, shoulders up a bit more, shoulders in advance of the bar, so more forward than the bar. Then some people consider weightlifting shoes being a needed piece of equipment to make it a clean deadlift. But the big thing for me is the knees pulling backwards and the knees not staying in this kind of super flexed and forward position. And Harley does an absolutely great job of this here. It's crazy weights, like 300 kilos with a hook grip for a nice, fast, clean deadlift. Just absolutely class.
That's not a hook grip, is it? Straps? I think he's wearing straps.
I don't think so.
Not that it matters that much, but maybe it is hook grip.
Yeah.
No, it is straps.
Is it straps? Little shorties.
No, it is straps, yeah. So obviously it doesn't matter. So like Dara's talking about, he's got that perpendicular shin angle and it stays back, which could easily happen in, you're doing a really heavy clean deadlift, so you move your knees back like you would in the clean, and then you immediately bring them forward and you start this kind of hitching, and we see weightlifters doing that, and then we start getting this little shruggy position, and it kind of loses all relevance to your actual clean technique. So if you can maintain it at this weight, obviously it's going to be pretty productive in the right sections of your training. Now, speaking of Manasad from a few minutes ago, we have him doing some unusual training hall stuff, but it makes sense now. He did a 170 kilo pause snatch just above the knee, and then he did a 190 kilo hang snatch. So I assume he just went as heavy as he could on the pause snatch and then moved on to the hangs.
These are so fast.
They look so casual.
This looks like he's annoyed at having to stand up that weight.
Yeah.
These are insanely fast.
Crazy.
There's not many people in the world training right now who are going to be able to do that.
Do a hang snatch with 190 like that?
Yeah, and have it look like that.
Oh, I'd say he might be the only one. I don't even know if Lasha could do 190 like that right now.
Yeah.
There's many other people. Lalian could probably do it. Gore could do it. Probably less than 5 other people.
Yeah, but then have it look like that? Probably none.
Gore probably could.
Yeah.
Lalian's pretty class as well.
It is so good.
Yeah, he's certainly the fastest super. So it'll be interesting to see what he pulls out at the Olympics. 190 hang snatch. You just don't often see supers doing hangs, really, do you?
No.
Especially not the hang snatches, or even any variation, to be honest.
I know a couple of weeks ago seeing a thing online where people thought some of his lifts that it mightn't have been the weight that they thought it was, or that the plates weren't the weight they thought they were. When you're like this and you're showing up in this kind of shape to an international level competition,
yes,
and you do this in the training hall, all of that shit talk has gone out the window. Nobody can really doubt the weights he's doing now. So strong.
So next up, we've got Eileen Kikamatana. So she is competing for Team Australia. She is an 81 kilo lifter, but in training last week, she put up this 161 kilo block clean. She really loves clean block lifts in her training, in the snatch, in the power clean, in the full clean. And she's doing another similar, like I was talking about for the Egyptian lifter, similar style where she can get that barbell really far into her hip. Now, in her case, she's bringing her hips a little bit further towards the barbell and leaning back into it, which definitely isn't recommended, but she is also making it work incredibly well. So she's hitting just around this double bodyweight block clean, so she's doing something right. And it is, again, a great way of working through that second pull speed and pull under in the third pull.
The one thing I think of every time when I see Eileen lifting is how aggressive she is with her lifting. And on this one, you can really see it in how aggressive the pull under is. Pulls from blocks or cleans from blocks or whatever, it's difficult to develop that kind of speed that you get when the bar is moving off the floor, because obviously you don't have the same amount of time to be imparting force onto the bar. In this case, you'll see that second pull. is quite slow. It's probably slower than her normal clean would be, but how quickly and how aggressively she pulls under the bar really makes up for that. So that's a major thing if you are doing block work in your training, or even if you're doing hang work in your training, making sure you're focusing on speed all of the time, because that very restrictive variation does limit the absolute speed of the bar a lot.
Next, we've got Rizky. So Triatano, his teammate, former London Olympian, put up this 190 kilo snatch balance, Rizky snatch balance. So the looking really casual. And Rizky is obviously a fantastic snatcher and clean and jerker, of course. And this looks way too easy for 190, doesn't it?
Yeah, this looks like somebody demonstrating a snatch balance at a weightlifting coaching course.
Yes.
It's if you told me that's what 70 kilos look like, I'd be like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Even so, you could expect the power jerk bit to be easy, but it's how casually he stands up with it is insane. Yeah. So the snatch balance, there's a lot of different variations. People have different names for things. You know, you'll have stuff like the drop snatch, and then you'll have like the heaving snatch balance, and the snatch balance move your feet, and then snatch power jerk, the overhead squat. So you have a huge amount of variations of the names, and people will get quite upset or argue with them. This would be just a snatch balance. He moves his feet. He moves from that jerk into the overhead squat. That's what we would call a snatch balance. And it's as long as you understand what your coach wants you to do, that's all that matters. This is, you know, probably, I'm going to say he might have done close to 170 in training, but let's even say 165. So he is more than enough with his snatch balance. A lot of amateur lifters, though, a lot of people we coach and with people we encounter, couldn't do their best snatch for a single. And now the best place you want to be is kind of around 110 to 120 with relative ease. So you want to be able to do it with pretty confidently if you do a little bit of training for it and have the capacity for that. But if you can barely do your best snatch, or in some cases some people can't even do their best snatch for a single in the snatch balance, you probably have a weakness there. So if you can bring that up over to 110%, or I like to see a triple at your best snatch, your best snatch at the time of that training block is a good place to be. After that, then it's, I'm going to say, pretty much pointless to push any further. For Rizky here, there's literally no point in him going beyond this 190. It's almost a waste of time. But in your case, let's say you're snatching 100 kilos, you can't do 100. If you can do 100 for a triple, or maybe 115 for a single, maybe even 120, then you get a lot of benefit. But if you can't do that, you are missing out on some stability and strength in that overhead position. Now, moving on to our athlete section, we've got Braylon Allen doing a 184.5 kilo clean, so it's 406 pounds, and he is an absolute monster. So we'll just look at a picture of him when he was 17 in a second. But
yeah, what can you say here? You know, I think in sport, and to be fair, in strength sports, we're somewhat sheltered from this, because you tend to train on our own or train with a quite small group of people. But in other sports, particularly where you're competing against other teams, you understand that humans are not born equal. That there's a massive difference physically, psychologically, everything between you and the person you're competing with. And this not being born equal thing is never more true than when you look at an athlete like Braylon. Insanely powerful, insanely fast. Obviously, Gurf's going to show us a picture here in a second of him when he was 17. This is a college level athlete, so he's in school when this picture is taken. Think back to what shape you were in when you were 17. I bet you weren't that big and that ripped and that athletic. It is absolutely amazing.
I don't think anyone was that big and that ripped. Jesus Christ, 17 years old. Obviously, look, there's, you know, implications and questions or whatever, but there's no point. There's no need for that in the news show, but it's crazy. So I believe he has gotten a position secured at the NFL. So I think he's like 18 now. So it's insane to be, securing positions like that at that age. And the great thing about that is that young, if you can make your money, and I know sometimes these athletes' careers are super short for whatever reason. Maybe sometimes it's talent, maybe sometimes it's injury. Could be a combination of both. They're not manifesting what the scouts might have thought they would be, but to have the opportunity to financially set yourself up for the rest of your life, even if your career only lasts 3 years, which could easily happen, could only last one season, you could have a terrible time. But if you are able to get secured, even if you're on that pathway, so I think he is, I'm not sure if he's playing in the NFL yet, but he's on the way. So if you can if you can set yourself up financially in your early years like that, it's such a boon. So even if your athletic career ends, but you've still some of that money made, there's still some huge positives to your life which are very difficult to come by when you think about the percentage of population that makes professional sport and that money.
Yeah, I think especially in the US system, especially in American football, high school football matters, college football matters a lot in terms of getting to the NFL. But you basically have to be in that kind of shape when you're 17 or 18. If you're still a kid, or if you're not pushing weights massively when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, you're not going to have a professional career in American football. You won't have a professional career in baseball or anything like that in the US. Now, there's always the caveats to this. There's always the thing of this guy walked on when he was 24, or this guy walked on when he was 25 or 26, and he had a career. That is not what you should be looking for if you're trying to set yourself up for a career in professional sport, or if you're just looking to have an objective view over it. You look at how the average people get in there. The average of that entire group will have been absolute freaks when they're 16 or 17. And it's very, very important, even if it's not in American football, even if it's in a different sport where timelines might be different. Unicorns are unicorns. You know that from the second you see them. And it's very, very unlikely that unless you're a freak when you're that young, that you'll be in pro sport.
Next up, speaking of unicorns, although I don't think anyone would call Tom Haviland a unicorn, he did primarily what I'm concerned about here in this particular montage of training is this kneeling to max vertical with a 15 kilo weighted vest on. So we've seen him do a lot of jumping. He said he wants to hit a 40-inch vertical at 340 pounds, and he is currently lighter than that. So he said he wants to go back up to 340 pounds, and he said that added weighted vest is something he feels will help him mimic that when he gets heavier. And even if it doesn't, it's still some extra weight on those jumps, so maybe it might transfer to the vertical. It's a complicated matter, but it's some insane in jumping. So if you look at this in the end, Tom is 6'7", and when you see him just standing there underneath the bell, there's a lot of distance between him and the bell. Now I know it's a funny camera angle, but it is without a doubt an absolute mind-blowing jump.
You know what I'd really love is just some data on Tom Haviland. I'd love to bring him into an anatomy and kinesiology lab. Max isometric pull from mid thigh, max vertical jump on a force plate. Just get some idea for how much of a freak he is. I would love to see that. It would be so interesting as well. He is so strong, and so strong across a massive variety of implements and movement patterns and different styles of lifting. He's obviously incredibly powerful. We saw him jumping onto a round bale last week from a seated position. His vertical jump here appears to be incredibly high, but I'd love to just have data there. I'd love to have it. Obviously, he doesn't really compete in anything. I'd love to see him going to a competition and just getting objective numbers for what those different lifts are and what those different accomplishments are.
I think he hates getting asked about competing. I think he said it before, because people, from what he said in one comment, he said he actually changed his training away from the big barbell lifts because he was so sick of people asking him, or more traditional things. Yeah, because people just kept saying it. And I wouldn't blame people either. I mean, people want to see competing, it is just nature. And if you're putting stuff up on social media, you're left open to those. So it's no one's at fault there, but I can see how it might get a little bit annoying. Next up, we've got MM Strength, or Mason, a no stranger to the news show, and he is squatting 362.5 kilos or 800 pounds for a set of 5 in the animal cage in the animal, is it the one in Europe, I think?
I think so, yeah.
So this is well below Mason's max, obviously, but I wonder, is this close to 5RM? He's an exceptional squatter. He's very strong all around, but the squat really is his forte, or at least that's what sticks out in my mind when we look at Mason lifting. The massive excitement I have around this, he says, I'm going for 400 kilos for an AMRAP next year. Cheapers.
How many reps can a man do at 400 kilos? I think we've seen him do a double at 400 after that competition.
Before Christmas, I know he was trying to do 400, and I think since he's done, have we seen him do 420?
Something mental, yeah.
So I love how long it takes for powerlifting blocks to go, because he's like, next year
Yeah.
I'm going to do the AMRAP, you know. Like, maybe he's talking about the competition next year, but
Yes.
obviously in terms of powerlifting in my mind when it comes to programming is like steering a massive ship, and you've like really long, pretty predictable things that are laid out, but you have to put in the work to get there. It takes a while to get there. You can only get there so fast. And then the real killer is that something pops up, an iceberg or something that you don't see, it then really throws you off. But whereas weightlifting, it's like a little speedboat. You're trying to get somewhere specifically, other athletes, and it's a little bit more unpredictable in some ways, but both are difficult in their own manner. And in my mind, it's always like, yeah, powerlifting is like, you can get there, but if something goes wrong, you're fucked.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Like, once you're off course, it's so hard to get back on course.
I also feel like as well, getting back to being in good enough shape to do enough volume in powerlifting to make reasonable change is like just getting back in that shape is hard enough, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a lot of powerlifters there who will kind of just tip away through their training, but when you're at the level Mason is at, the sacrifice and the massive pain of training is cannot be understated.
Next, we've got Colton Engelbrecht. So he's been probably the most sent in thing this week in the news show. So he put up a lot of big numbers and lots of talk of all-time world records falling. And I don't think he's done any competition recently that's been kind of outside the gym or a bigger international competition. So it'll be remain to be seen. You know, you don't want to big up some lifts too early or lifter until they've kind of done a bit, because it's almost insulting then to other lifters who've put in the work and done the competitions and the big cuts. So with that being said, with that minor caveat, here is a video from benching 225 kilos for a set of 4, and they look super easy. So he's 23 years old, around 110 kilos. I think he competes 109, so probably a little bit heavier than that. But the bench press is something else.
So good. So consistent here. A lot of the time for these massive bench presses for 225 for 4 or 225 for any amount of crazy reps like that, you'll see massive athletes doing them, really big chests, really kind of restricted range of motion then because of that. In this case, we don't see any of that with Colton. Very, very nice, consistent technique. I really like the fact that there's no elbow flare. There's no crazy wide grip. Like, it's not close grip by any means, but it's not that far out from being straight up from his shoulders. It's a really impressive lift.
He's called himself Colton the Limit Breaker, which is obviously a statement for a name. So obviously in these cases, I'm on the side of hoping the lifter manifests and does that, you know, and does those big lifts. Like, I'm not someone who's like, yeah, let's see, I hope he does shit. You know, I love to see this, you know, because it's better for the sports and everyone involved. So I'm on, hopefully he makes those numbers on a big platform, and maybe might do something like the powerlifting series abs or something similar to that, which is definitely picking up a lot of steam in terms of prestige.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of someone who leaves it, sorry for cutting across you there.
No, it's fine.
Sorry, I have to talk here. Now, speaking of someone who definitely puts those numbers up on the platform and in training, we've got Denise Herber. So this is mind-blowing. So just listen for a second now. Beltless, 291.5 kilo deadlift as a 75 kilo lifter. So she cut like 10 kilos in water weight. Did this in the competition platform. It's 4 times body weight. It's conventional. That is crazy. At 75, I never knew she was 75. I know we've had the news show a few times. Or competed to 75. I know it's not the same thing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I can't get over how big this is. And conventional. Like, this is crazy.
Look, you said the word conventional 3 or 4 times there in the last sentence.
Yeah.
But it cannot be understated how absolutely important that is to the impressiveness of this lift. A quadruple body weight deadlift full stop is insanely impressive, but to be doing it like this, to be doing it beltless, to be doing it without a suit, and to be doing it conventional is just like, this is what all-time world records are. They are just these one-in-a-lifetime unicorn events. It is absolutely insane. She's obviously an incredible athlete, but I love to see this when it all comes together in a big competition like this. It just makes it so much better.
Yeah, it's great to see in the comp after the water cut in front of people. You've got your 3 lifts, you know, you've got the other lifts to do during that day. So it is, it's something, it's absolutely crazy lifting, and just would that make her the best female deadlifter ever?
I have no idea. Surely she's up around there for the conversation anyway.
Here we've got Hagen Henderson, a frequent feature, squatting 822 pounds, which is 373.6363 reoccurring, which is actually impossible to load on a barbell, just in case you didn't know that.
Reoccurring?
Yeah, it's it's not possible. I've tried before, but you can't do it for what I would say a casual single, another casual lift.
Yeah, he calls this RP8. Obviously, we have our problems with RPE, but this is definitely easy. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous looking squat. This is the kind of squat where if you send your athlete away and maybe they're 2 weeks out from competition and you're like, today I just want you to hit a heavy single, but it has to look good. Maybe 90%, maybe what you're going to hit for your opener, but it has to be super consistent and it has to be fast. This is the perfect situation here.
Yeah, Hagen has a beautiful squat. It's barely low bar as well, which I think is the most interesting thing here. So it's I would call it, I suppose, a low bar squat, but plenty of weightlifters, like if you were to compare that to where, say, Toshiki Yamamoto holds his high bar squat, or maybe Clarence is kind of a similar place where we're just at the slightly widest position of the shoulder, but he's very upright in his standing position. His back angle remains incredibly consistent. He gets super deep in the bottom. It's just so satisfying to see a really fast, deep, heavy, upright squat. That is one of my one true loves, and I just love to see it. Let's finish today's news show. We have got
your other true love,
Luke Stoltman, winning Europe's Strongest Man for the second time. It gets pretty emotional here, and what I really like about this is the crowds getting bigger for strongman competition. So I was at Europe's Strongest Man about 10 years ago. It was on in Leeds, and the World Deadlift Championships around the time. There was like Misha Kalayev, Hafthor was there, Eddie Hall was there, I think Brian Shaw was there. They all did really terrible on the deadlift. It didn't go great for anyone from what I remember. It was just kind of at the start of Eddie Hall's kind of big deadlifting journey, I think, and Hafthor won Europe's Strongest Man at the time of that competition. And there was a crowd there. It felt like a medium-sized soccer stadium from what I remember, some part of it. But to see the crowds in the background, this is amazing. That's fantastic to see.
Yeah, I think that's what strongman needs. Like every professional sport needs big crowd numbers. But I think strongman are doing a great job of it recently. There's a lot of people paying attention to strongman, watching strongman, kind of semi-following along with strongman, who are never doing amateur strongman competitions, which is what you need if you want a big, successful, widespread sport. You need the vast majority of your viewership to have nothing to do with the actual training or nothing to do with the actual athletes. And that's what we are seeing now with strongman. So it's great. It's good to see.
Yeah, like percentage, like bums on seats is only ever going to be a tiny percentage of that big number. So the more people you have, it is a great symptom of how well the sport is doing and how popular it is. If you fill a stadium like this, I have no concept of how many thousand people this is, but it looks like a lot. It's certainly more than is at a lot of weightlifting competitions, so it is a great symptom. A very small percentage of people are ever going to show up and watch this. And obviously the UK has a strong history of strongman, and it's always very popular. And like I just said, I went to watch one in the UK before, so I'm happy for this. Any strength sport doing well is great for all strength sports to a certain regard. Like look at weightlifting's benefited from CrossFit. Now it's really separate from CrossFit now, but that catalyst for weightlifting's popularity in the amateur scene was largely related to the CrossFit. It isn't now for sure, but it definitely was catalyzed like that. So we are all reliant on each other to a huge extent. So to see strongmen doing well is a great symptom for the rest of the industry.
Now, one thing that's not a great symptom, Owen, is he should not be holding a trophy and a can of Monster Energy drink or whatever it is. He should be holding a sword or a battle axe like they used to always give out at those strongman competitions.
Maybe it's just not very PC anymore to give someone a sword.
That's the problem with the world today.
Thanks for watching today's news show. Once again, we'd just like to thank everyone for DMing us. I look at every single one of those DMs. It literally takes like an hour to an hour and a half some days to look through all of them. So I do look at every single one of them before we put the new show together. It makes the new show much better than we would make it ourselves, because we just couldn't possibly see everything. A lot of you guys see things way before we'll see them. Like a person like that, Colton, for example, was sent in pretty regularly. So it is It's also a great way of knowing what you guys are interested in. And so thanks for sending those in. Don't forget to check out the Seek Strength app and the Seek Strength strength conditioning camp and weightlifting camp in Portugal. They're going to be great. Last year's was a fantastic success. It's a really nice town. It's by the ocean. Well, technically the Mediterranean Sea. And where does it stop? Where does the Mediterranean start? Where does the Atlantic start? It's a question that we could answer on the camp if you arrive, and maybe we can discuss it there along with weightlifting and S&C work. But thanks for watching today's news show. And just for the algorithm this week, leave your favourite lift from whatever you saw or whatever section. I'm going to say mine from today's is probably David testing positive for Tren would probably be my favourite.
Mine was the 190 hang snatch.
I think I'm going to say Archam's 210.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
very nice.
It's nice to see Archam, because we probably won't see much of him now for the next few years.
Thanks, guys.